Hello and welcome to another edition of Feel This Pain. I'm Ken McKim, and in tonight's episode we're going to be talking about something known as chronic pancreatitis. So what is it? Well, it's when your pancreas becomes inflamed, making it harder for you to digest food and regulate your blood sugar levels. So let's take a look at it by the numbers, shall we? In 2009, there were almost 20,000 hospital admissions for chronic pancreatitis, at a cost of $172 million. That's not chump change. Men are 1.5 times more likely than women to have chronic pancreatitis. Now, your pancreas really has two jobs. It produces enzymes to help you digest food, and it releases hormones like insulin and glucagon into your blood to help control your blood sugar levels. So with chronic pancreatitis, something is causing those digestive enzymes to activate before they leave the pancreas, which means that instead of digesting food, they start digesting the tissue of the pancreas, leading to inflammation. And that kind of repeated inflammation can cause permanent scarring that can lead to things like cysts or gallstones developing, which then mess things up even more by impeding the flow of those same digestive enzymes that would normally help break down the food that you eat. So not only do the enzymes activate too soon, but too few of them are making it out of the pancreas to help digest your food. And for those of you who have seen my Feel This Pain video on gastroparesis, you already know what happens when your food doesn't get broken down properly. You become malnourished because you're unable to absorb any of the nutrients from your food. Now, also remember I said that the pancreas regulates your blood sugar levels. So yes, those same cysts and other blockages can also interfere with the production and distribution of insulin. So you could end up as a malnourished diabetic. It's crazy. So what are some of the causes? Well, the number one cause that everyone's familiar with is alcohol. Alcohol abuse accounts for up to 70% of cases, and that's unfortunate because since it's one of the best known causes of this, people can be quick to assume that if you have chronic pancreatitis that you're probably an alcoholic, and that's not always the case. There are so many things that can cause chronic pancreatitis. So what are we talking about? Well, things like smoking, hypercalcemia, which is having too much calcium in your blood. It could be hereditary. You might be one of those people who have a mutated gene that causes it. Autoimmune diseases like IBD and Sjögrens can cause it. Even some medications like statins, steroids, and some oral contraceptives. So what kind of symptoms should you expect? Well, the classics. Abdominal pain with nausea and vomiting, significant chronic weight loss, diarrhea, oily stools, stools that look like clay. Your skin and eyes might turn yellow, which is called jaundice. You might also develop type 1 diabetes, as approximately 45% of patients with chronic pancreatitis do develop it. Of course, we've covered malnutrition, and there's many more. Those are just the highlights. Now, as far as treatment options go, some doctors might recommend a process known as pancreatic enzyme replacement. That helps fight malabsorption and thus malnutrition. And it can also help take some of the pressure off the pancreas by starting to digest the food before it ever leaves your stomach. Surgery can help some people. There's a lot of different surgical procedures they might recommend. One of them is called a WHIPPLE. And the purpose of the WHIPPLE procedure is to remove inflammation on the head of the pancreas. But this operation has its own inherent dangers because it calls for removing a lot of the pancreatic tissue. Sometimes, if you're lucky and you meet the criteria, your surgeon might perform something known as a modified WHIPPLE, which does the same thing, but it sacrifices less tissue. Of course, your doctor will go over all this with you. But surgery, as always, is surgery. It's major stuff. You don't mess around with it if you don't have to. As far as pain management goes, well, your pain management options pretty much depend on who you talk to. Now, interestingly enough, and I thought this was great, the Columbia University Department of Surgery recommends medications such as Percocet and oxycodone for pain management. They go so far as to say, quote, oral methadone is a very good medication for managing chronic pain. And then they go on to explain the difference between physiological and psychological addiction, and they stress that chronic pain and chronic pancreatitis patients must be addressed. And quote, the need for pain medication does not constitute a psychological addiction. How about that? What a refreshing take on the use of narcotic painkillers to treat people's pain. Oh, that's so nice to hear, that you don't automatically become an addict as soon as you take a pill. Now, to be fair, they also mention things like pain pumps, implantable nerve stimulators, and even nerve blocks. Now, keep in mind, if you go the nerve block route, the destroyed nerves will grow back after a few months. So, repeated nerve blocks are going to be necessary throughout your life. It's just something to consider when you're weighing all your options. So how does it feel? Well, one of my longtime viewers summed it up pretty well. She said, imagine that you have a porcupine duct taped into the middle part of your stomach and he's just constantly moving around trying to find a way out. Alternately, if you can imagine what it might be like to have a hot sword inside your gut that extends all the way up through your spine and into your shoulders, that's a pretty fair assessment as well. When you try to eat, any amount of food can double you over to the point where you are just laid out on the floor or on the couch. You're not moving much and you're not eating much because it's that painful. With pain medication, you'll be lucky if your pain levels are at a 5. Without pain medication, we're talking 9s and 10s. It's serious. The bottom line is, if you know someone who suffers from chronic pancreatitis, please be compassionate towards them. Their life is no fun. They didn't ask for this life, but they've got it, and they're doing the best they can. And that's all the time we have this week. I appreciate you making the time to sit here with me. If you don't want to miss any of my videos, I would strongly suggest that you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And, while you're there, go ahead and like the video and then share it with other people. And of course, you can find me at all the usual social media places, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. I'm all around. Or you could just head on over to my website at don'tpunishpain.com. That's good too. And that's it. We're all out of time. I will sign off for this week. But until next time, my friends, I'm Ken McKim. You take care.